All right, so today we're going to tear into Robinhood's latest investor presentation. Why? Because there is a massive, and I mean massive, ambition hiding behind all the new stuff they've been launching. And the whole story, believe it or not, kicks off in a pretty weird place.
So let's just jump right in with a question that I know is going to sound completely random, but you gotta trust me on this one, because the answer is the key to unlocking their entire new game plan.
Yep, this isn't some made-up example. This was a real thing you could do on Robinhood, placing a bet on who was going to win the World Baseball Classic. Now, it's easy to dismiss this as just some quirky little feature, right? But it's not. It's a huge signal that they're thinking way beyond just buying and selling stocks.
Yeah, this move is basically them planting a flag and saying, we're not just the simple stock trading app anymore. But really, this is just one tiny piece of a much bigger puzzle they've been putting together.
So that whole baseball thing, it was just one part of this absolute explosion of new products they rolled out in 2025. This wasn't a one-off. It was part of a strategy that's all about one thing: speed. Let's take a look at just how fast they were moving.
And wow, this slide really just lays it all out. This is what they call their product velocity. And they are not kidding. We're talking perpetual futures. You know, those crypto contracts that let you bet on price swings without a deadline. They added a ton of new crypto assets, over 1,500 new stock tokens in Europe. Plus, they rolled out AI tools and even announced they're heading into Indonesia. It was just relentless, one launch right after another.
Okay, but here's the obvious question, right? You can launch a million new things, but does any of it actually work? Did all this frantic activity lead to any real growth? Well, let's see what the numbers have to say.
First up, they hit 27 million total funded customers by the end of the year. That's a huge user base.
And get this, 1.8 million of those were brand new customers signing up and funding their accounts in just that 1 year.
But this is the number that really matters. The total amount of money on the platform shot up to $324 billion. See, that tells you it's not just about getting more people to sign up. It's about those people trusting Robinhood with serious money.
To put that in perspective, that's a 68% jump in assets in just 1 year. So the answer is a pretty clear yes. The whole build it fast strategy, it seems to have worked big time in getting both new users and their cash in the door.
Okay, so here's the key takeaway so far. This isn't just chaos. It's not them just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks. No, there's a real master plan behind all this speed. Let's dig into what that bigger ambition actually is. And it all comes down to this one slide. This is from their investor deck, and it lays out their entire 10-year vision. Think of this as the Rosetta Stone. It's the roadmap that explains every single move they're making.
Their whole plan is built in 3 stages, and each one builds on the last. Step 1, in the short term, is to become the absolute #1 spot for active traders. Step 2, use that momentum to become the main financial account for the next generation. And then, the end game, step 3, take all of that and build a single, massive global financial ecosystem.
So how are they actually going to pull this off? Well, this is where all those crazy product launches we saw earlier suddenly start to make a whole lot of sense. Let's break down each part of the plan.
First up, Pillar 1, win over the active traders. This is the foundation. They have to nail this for anything else to work.
And how do they do it? Well, they're taking all those advanced tools they launched in 2025, things like index options and futures, and they're doubling down. They're pushing harder into prediction markets, adding more social trading stuff, and trying to wrap it all up into a single, slick super app design. Okay, so once you've got all these active traders hooked, what's next? Pillar 2, capture their wallet share. That's business speak for getting a bigger piece of their financial pie. They don't just want to be your trading app, they want to be your everything app for money. So that means getting into banking, pushing their credit card, that kind of stuff. But the future plans are even more interesting. They're looking at things like family investing accounts, and this is a big one, giving regular people access to private markets. So you could invest in a startup before it even has its IPO. And that leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, the biggest, most ambitious one of all. Once you've become the main bank account for a whole generation in one country, well, there's only one thing left to do: go global. This means pushing hard into new countries, like we're seeing in the UK and Asia. But it's also about betting big on some pretty futuristic tech. I'm talking about tokenization, which is basically a fancy way of saying they want to turn things like real estate or fine art into digital tokens you can trade easily. And to make it all work, they're even building their very own blockchain, the Robinhood chain.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, it's pretty wild. You can draw a straight line from a simple bet on a baseball game all the way to this incredibly detailed plan to build a global do-everything financial super app. Suddenly, every single move makes sense.
And that really brings us to the bottom line here. Robinhood is running at an insane speed. They're making a massive bet that they can simply outbuild and out-innovate the entire financial world. Which leaves us with the one giant question hanging over all of this. Is this high-speed, high-stakes gamble going to create the future of finance, or is it a bet that's just too big and too ambitious to actually win?
Robinhood just dropped their 2025 results, and wow, to say they had a good year would be an understatement. They are on an absolute tear. We're talking record-breaking numbers that tell this incredible story of explosive growth. So what's really driving this success? Let's get past the headlines and unpack the strategy behind the stats.
Okay, let's start with the big one, $4.5 billion in total revenue. I mean, to put that in perspective, that's not just a company record, it's a jaw-dropping 52% increase from the year before. That is the kind of growth that makes everyone on Wall Street sit up and pay attention.
But you know, huge revenue is one thing, but is it profitable? That's the real question. And yep, Robinhood delivered, with a record $2.05 in earnings per share. This shows you their business model isn't just getting bigger, it's getting smarter, more efficient, and way more profitable as it scales. And the third key number is 4.2 million Gold subscribers. Just let that sink in, a 58% jump in just 1 year. This isn't just some little add-on anymore. Nope, this is becoming a core piece of their business, creating this really powerful, predictable stream of money coming in every single month. So what's the big idea tying all these massive numbers together? Well, CEO of Vlad Tenev laid it out pretty simply. He said, "We are building the financial super app." That one phrase right there is the key. It unlocks their entire strategy, and it's how we're going to understand everything else that follows. So we get it, the goal is a super app. But how does that idea actually translate into $4.5 billion? Let's follow the money and see exactly where all that revenue is coming from. All right, if you look here at the chart, you can see their revenue engine is basically split into three main parts. That big purple slice, 59%, that's from transactions. You know, the classic trading stuff Robinhood is famous for. The blue slice, at a really solid 34%, is from net interest, a super significant and stable source of income. And that little green slice, just 7%, is other. But don't let its size fool you. That's where those fast-growing Gold subscriptions we just talked about are hiding. But here's where it gets really interesting. If we zoom into that transaction slice, there's this fascinating story of push and pull going on. On one hand, you've got options and stock trading, which absolutely boomed in the last quarter. But on the other hand, crypto revenue dropped off quite a bit. This really shows you the dynamic inside their business. Incredible strength in traditional markets, but also exposure to that wild, volatile crypto wave. Now, all this revenue is driven by people. So let's switch gears a bit and focus on the user base. How many people are on the platform, and how much of their money are they actually trusting Robinhood with? Get this, the platform is now home to 27 million funded customers. That's an entire community of investors, and it grew by nearly 2 million people last year. And remember, we're not just talking about signups here. These are active users putting real money into the ecosystem. And whoa, those customers are bringing some serious capital with them. The total assets on the platform ballooned to $324 billion. That's a 68% jump in just a year, and it comes from two places: brand new money flowing in, and the investments that were already there growing in value. So how did assets grow that fast? The key metric here is called net deposits. It's simply the total flow of new money onto the platform. In 2025, that number was a record $68 billion. People aren't just signing up, they are actively moving their wealth over to Robinhood. And here's the crucial point. It's not just about getting more customers. It's about each customer becoming more valuable. The average revenue per user, or ARPU, hit $191, a solid 16% increase. This means they are getting better and better at getting more revenue from each person on the platform. So we've seen the what, all these record numbers. Now let's get to the why. Because all of this is part of a very deliberate three-part plan, a roadmap that's designed to build that financial super app we mentioned right at the start. And here it is, the master plan. First, they're doubling down on active traders by adding more advanced tools. Second, they're chasing wallet share by encouraging long-term investing, like with their retirement accounts that now hold over $26 billion. And third, they're expanding their footprint all across the globe. You can see how each of these pieces is designed to fit right into that final super app puzzle. So they had a phenomenal 2025, no doubt about it. But what about 2026 and beyond? Let's take a look at what the company is signaling for the road ahead. They are definitely not resting on their laurels. Robinhood is planning to spend up to $2.7 billion on operating expenses next year. The whole point? To hit the accelerator on product development and double down on that international expansion. They're using their current success to fuel even faster growth. And this brings us to the final big question. They've posted the numbers, they've laid out the plan, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. With a record year in the books and these massive investments ahead, can Robinhood truly execute its vision and become the one-stop super app for an entire generation's financial life? Well, that is the multi-billion-dollar question.